Hey, I'm Caleb. This is the show. I wanted to start today talking about just looking ahead into 2024. I I listened to a podcast called Cortex with some guys that just kind of live in this same realm of, like, one of them is a YouTube creator full time and the other one is a podcaster full time. And every year they do the same thing. They set a theme for 2024, and it's not like it's not a resolution, right? It's not a goal. It's a theme that they are trying to just remind themselves to live inside of. And I've been listening to them set this now for 3 or 4 years, and I figured it's time to finally set some myself. And so the first one I'm actually taking straight from Gray and one of his yearly themes, and that is 2024 is going to be the year of quality of life improvements. And what I mean by that is just like removing little things that keep me from being as creative and productive as I could be. Living with what I now know is ADHD means that I'm not always going to want to do these things or start doing them, right? Like things that I enjoy doing, whether it be playing video games or recording a podcast or recording music. They all are things that I enjoy doing, but the thought of the like setup and the prep work, or the idea of it being just like some big, completely open thing is, I don't want to say frightening, but it's overwhelming to me. And so then it's just like, I don't even bother to start. And so what I've been doing the past couple of weeks, and what will now be my theme for 2024 is, and I've said this before, like removing my barrier to entry, right? Whatever I can do in my life in different areas, whether it's at work, here in my creative stuff, my hobbies or whatever, in being a parent, just little things that I can do for myself, whether it's buying a nicer piece of a nicer piece of equipment, or if it's just, making sure maybe I have finally 2 of something or 3 of something. So like microphones are a perfect example. I happened to see at Guitar Center recently that this microphone was on clearance, and it was like really, really, really cheap. And we just like redid the basement and want the spot over there to be like where I did my interview or my show with Christian. Like, I want that to be something that we could just walk into, sit down, and hit record. And like that, just the reduction of barrier to entry to that. I've got stuff set up here on my Mac where it is basically just sit down, open a couple things, check microphones, check cameras, and go. When Sam started her podcast, Extra Sauce on the Side, we were still at our old house. And actually kind of what got me into this was the pandemic. The pandemic started. I said that I've wanted to do a podcast since 2012, but the idea of like actually investing in it, having some video gear, some appropriate lighting or anything like that I kind of started that during the pandemic. I had this very short-lived thing called Grand Rapids Live that before we kind of totally understood how severe the pandemic was going to be and how much like isolation we were going to have, I started seeing my friends in town have all their shows canceled. And I was like, well, I at least have enough audio know-how to like mix it and sound good. And we could like just put up a camera and, just kind of started offering, hey, if you had a show canceled and you want to come play it in my living room, we'll broadcast it for free. And you just got to tell your friends where to come see it. Only a couple people took me up on that. Again, pandemic. But like, so then Sam had this idea for a podcast a couple years later or a year later or something. And so we started doing that. And then we moved here to this house and did some more episodes of that show. But it became really, really hard for me to do on top of my schedule because it was like, get home. Sam doesn't really know how to set any of this up at all. So it was like, whatever podcast day it was, whether I've been working or it was a day off, like set all this stuff up, plug it all in, get it all out of the closet, run all these cables. I was setting like a folding table up for myself in the living room with all of my stuff on it. And just like, not that it wasn't fun to do, but to like just set all of that up for a couple of hours and then tear it all down and have to edit the show for Sam and all this stuff. It just was not, there were lots of barriers there and lots of things that were keeping me from getting to the good part. And that is what I aim to get at as quickly as possible in the year of 2024. So just whatever I've got to do to get to the good stuff or get to what I'm trying to do. I want to introduce quality of life improvements. And the reason I think that I can finally set this as a goal for myself is like, I think it just kind of coincides with the fact that it's been 10 years. It's kind of a cool marker. And I'm lucky that it has kind of worked out that way. But really, it just is that, like, I have spent the last 10 years since I moved out of my parents' house, grinding, struggling, working for a dream. I have always known that I wanted to be an audio engineer. Always, since I was probably somewhere in middle school, 7th grade, really, that's when it started to finally click totally for me. I've always known that this is what I wanted to do. And I have not been able to do this as consistently as I want for the last 10 years, but now I've worked myself into a place, and I have a wife that supports me in it, and our dreams and our like hobbies and things kind of naturally coincide. And like, so yeah, the first 10 years were lots and lots of work. I was very nearly homeless for the first year and a half, couch surfing and like all kinds of stuff. And Sam and I got married, and, it's just been work. It's been nothing but work for the last 10 years. And it's not to say that there won't be work going forward or that I think it's going to get easier or whatever, but just like the work that I've done for the last 10 years has now, like, this is the culmination of it. I have had this idea of like, I am in a plane that is taxiing down a runway, but instead of just like a normal runway, there's a cliff at the end of it. So you've got only a certain amount of time to get up to speed, and are you going to be ready for that cliff? Is this kind of like vision that I've had, and I feel very ready for that cliff. I feel like we're going to hit that and take off and just keep soaring. And the last 10 years have been building the momentum to get to this launching point. So I'm just... I'm really excited about it. It's so cool. I was thinking the other day about all the little ways that I've been very lucky since I moved here. When I moved out of my parents in Illinois, I could have stayed in Illinois, but I'd gone to college here for 2 years at a local university, obviously. And I got kicked out twice at the end of each year. So I went for 2 years. I got kicked out at the end of each year because my grades were terrible. And I moved home for a year and a half, and I was miserable. I didn't want to be living with my parents anymore. I didn't really have any friends there anymore, and I was like working 2 jobs, miserable. And so I just decided, I was like, you know what, I'd had friends here in Grand Rapids that I missed. I just decided, you know what, I just need to get out. I'm just going to do it. And to get out on my own in Illinois would have been just like, from a income standpoint alone, my ability to make money and like get out in an apartment on my own would have been insane. The cost of living here in Grand Rapids 10 years ago was just way, way, way lower than Illinois. My first apartment, I paid $450 a month for rent. Like, that's just insane to think of now. You can't get anything for $450. But yeah, as I've been thinking about 2023 and the work that I've done this year on myself personally, managing my depression taking the steps to finally get on antidepressants, taking therapy seriously and going once a week, every week, as much as possible, and putting in the really, really hard work of healing has been I'd say it's a really cool capstone, or a really cool just like way to end this decade and to start off. It's a cool way to reflect on what is like, this is where the fun starts. And so since I can see that this is where the fun starts, that's where my yearly theme comes in. How do I remove barriers going forward to keep myself in the fun as much as possible? And by fun, I mean like EV is going to be 1 next month, and all the challenges that that's going to bring. This podcast, my business is slowly growing, like in ways that I haven't even thought about. Work, like the work is going great. It just is, it's cool to have spent the last 10 years grinding my face off, and to now start a new decade, feeling like I've accomplished some really, really cool shit. But also to be able to celebrate this because I've spent the last 10 years, and especially the last 2 years, doing all the really hard things. Something that I'm kind of celebrating for myself lately along those lines is my ability to take feedback on something that I've done wrong and not let it spiral into just like self-shaming myself, self-hurting myself, emotionally. We recently at work hung a pretty large PA system at a church, and I kind of took the majority of the lead on the like hanging the speakers physically in the room. And I mismeasured a wall because it like the room is an odd shape, and like where the drawings and the designer had taken measurements, I measured to a different spot. So that ended up being that the speakers were 10 feet deeper into the room than they needed to be, about maybe 8 feet. Sorry. And my boss, Josh, and I, Josh, friend of the show, Josh from Acoustics, just like, as we talked about it, one, he is really good at like not making you feel bad for those kinds of mistakes. Even if it is something that needs to change or is just like flat out wrong, he's very good at explaining what went, like, hey, this is what you did. Here's what we should have done. And he's always been that way. I have not been good at receiving that. And I received that criticism this last week or week before, I think really, really well. I took it. And by not taking that stuff well, I don't normally mean that it was like I would stand there and argue with him or just be like, yeah, well, I think I'm right. And but like, it was all internal. I'd be like, well, yeah, he's right. Obviously, you idiot. Like, gosh, you're so stupid. You've been doing this for how long now? And like, this is the first one that you finally are, taking the lead, and here you messed it up this bad and blah, blah, blah. None of that. At other jobs this year, not that I mess every job up, right? Everybody makes mistakes, but there was another job earlier this year, or maybe it was the end of last year. I don't know. It all blurs together, but like kind of similar situation. I just kind of misunderstood. There weren't solid drawings. And again, the PA was a little too deep in the room for what Josh would have liked to see. And there I definitely spent time beating myself up about it. And it like ruined my day. I was in a bad mood. It ruined the week. I was in a bad mood for the rest of the week. And I was like short with people and had a temper and like took it out on Sam and just like not cool, And then as I've been working on myself this last year, just those like, as I've gained awareness of those thought processes and how they were damaging and how they weren't in fact true, and how it was just years and years of trauma and kind of BS, and no one really being there to express the other side of those feelings to me and help me believe them. And so to now have the awareness of those things, I've started talking myself through those situations. A really good example is like the rioter thing from the last episode. Just like, it really does bother me that I try to be really professional for these artists and they show up and they didn't even give me a correct list of the gear that they want. But that's not a reflection on me. And so to just talk myself through it, hey, you're all right. Hey, these guys don't, like, forget these guys. Just you got what you got. And it's not going to be a showstopper. We can play a show without that brand of head, that brand of drum head or whatever, just talking myself through those things has now led to that small victory this last time with Josh of just like, I didn't have to talk myself through it. I just took the criticism from him and was like, yeah, you're right. I messed up on that. And then I fixed it and then was proud of my work again because I fixed it and made it the way that it should be. Cool, done. I didn't need to be beating myself up about it. I didn't need to be angry. Nothing. And so that feels really, really good. If you are on the fence about therapy, if you're on the fence about or if you're somebody who says, well, I don't need therapy, my childhood wasn't that bad, or I don't think I'm struggling with anything, I would highly, highly encourage you to just talk to somebody. Go for a couple weeks, go for a month, get more than one session in with a therapist. And if they don't fit, then they don't fit and find somebody else. See, the thing for me, and I guess it's probably this way with a lot of people, I put myself out there 2 times, 3 times, 4 times with therapists and never lined up with anybody that I clicked with. And first of all, I'm going to put a link in show notes to this, psychologytoday.org, I believe, whatever, psychology, let's find out. Give me a window. Psychologytoday.com. It's so big on their website, you can't miss it. Find a therapist where you are. And then you just the amount of things that you can dive into and hone down. I found Hannah, who is my therapist now. I found her through that website, and just from the first couple minutes of talking to each other, I knew that she was someone that I was going to be able to just kind of work some stuff out with, and I was going to feel safe with. And if you don't feel safe with your therapist, you're never going to get any work done. But it's so everybody should have a space where they can just talk out loud and not have any fear of repercussions outside of wanting to physically harm yourself or somebody else, right? But just to have a space where I can say the things that I am normally afraid to say has been so healing. And some of it is about other people, but some of it has even been things that I was afraid to say out loud about how I was feeling about something because it felt dangerous. I can remember talking about something with my therapist, and I was hesitating to say what I wanted to say, and she's like, "What? I think I know what you want to say." And she said it out loud, and she goes, "Why? What?" And I was like, "That feels dangerous to say that out loud." And she goes, What is going to happen by saying it inside of these 4 walls right now? No one is ever going to know you said it besides us." And I said it, and she was quiet, and she looked around. She's like, "Hey, look, nothing happened. You said it. Say it again." And we just that was so cool. It was so cool. It was so healing for me. And to just break down a little wall like that and learn that the way that I feel about other people is not broken, especially when it comes to positive feelings. The way that I love people is not broken. Was a really huge thing to learn, and I'm still learning that. I don't know if I believe it 100% yet, but we'll get there, right? Love it. Okay, enough mushy stuff. That's my what I'm looking forward to in 2024. Taking the last decade's worth of work and now building on it and just launching into the fun stuff. Let's take a quick break. For the end of the episode here, the last section of the episode, I wanted to talk about my favorite apps of 2023. Not necessarily apps that came out in 2023, but apps that I really, really love and used a lot in 2023. And I'll start with the Mac. Starting first with Bartender, version 5. Bartender it's a toolbar app for your Mac. The toolbar is the bit across the top, and on the right side of that toolbar you've got all those like icons up there for sound and control center and battery and Wi-Fi and other programs. Put things up there, and I am a fan of that being really, really clean, especially when I'm on when I'm using my 13-inch MacBook Pro and I don't have it connected to anything. As much clean screen real estate as I can have, the better. So Bartender automatically hides and shows everything in the menu bar for you, up until like control center and the clock and the date. So you can just have everything hidden, and then you roll your mouse up there and it reveals itself. It is like super, super customizable. You can also just kind of like craft and organize, different really it's for like just kind of hiding stuff in the menu bar, really. There's a whole bunch of like menu customization options, keyboard shortcuts, that just let you switch around through different things, reveal different icons, that kind of stuff. So Bartender just really cleans up my menu bar and gives me a really clean work environment on my Mac, which I really appreciate. Next up is the app that I use to edit all of my video, and that is DaVinci Resolve by Blackmagic Design. Industry standard stuff. Like the free version of DaVinci has so much stuff. Color correction, there's audio mixing built in, visual effects, you can do multicam editing, and it's like completely free. And then there's like a really expensive paid upgrade that like you gotta be a pro, and you gotta be using some specific hardware to really need that pro version of DaVinci. And it's really, really easy to learn. I have used so many different video editing apps since 2006 that I've lost count, or just kind of even forgotten some of them, I'm sure. But, iMovie to whatever Apple's professional video thing was there for a while, to Premiere, to Final Cut. DaVinci is by far the easiest to learn, and also like the easiest like accessible tutorials on how to do stuff. So if you are trying to get into video editing, I would highly, highly, highly recommend DaVinci Resolve. Next up is Descript. It's another podcasting tool for me. Descript is kind of like an all-in-one. You could do everything inside of Descript. You can record, edit, and publish, transcribe everything from there. But it's just like a super powered editing tool. You feed Descript an audio file or a video file or multiple video files or audio files, and it transcribes them, which on the surface is really, really cool, right? To just be able to feed it multiple sources and it's going to transcribe them accurately for you. But then when you go to edit, like if you want to take out filler words, or you want to like one of the podcasts I edit, they call out the break, and then when they take their break, when they come back, they count down from 5. And so I use Descript to search for those breaks and search for those countdowns to make my editing easier. But they recently kind of added a whole new wrinkle to this with AI stuff. So I use their AI tools to help me with generating clips of the show, like interesting clips for me to post on social media. It helps me write the description. It helps me find chapters and set titles for the chapters. It's just really, really powerful, not very expensive on a monthly basis. And, yeah. Oh, and when you go to edit, man, it gives you a Word document, right? And that Word document of all of the transcripted text, or transcript of your audio, you get to edit that thing like it's a Word document, and it takes care of cutting and removing and sliding around all of the like audio and the video and whatever. So you literally just kind of highlight words, delete them, correct words, whatever, and it's taking care of everything else kind of like behind the scenes for you. Really, really cool. Forecast. Forecast is an app by, oh man, I really want to say it's Marco Arment. It could be Casey Liss. It's one of the two of them. I can't tell you two apart. Fix it. But Forecast is kind of the last step before I upload a podcast and publish it. Forecast lets me take my WAV file, kind of like the very super high quality finished product of the podcast, and I put it in there. And then I type in the title of the show and the title of the episode and the description. And it even pulls in the chapter markers that I've put in. And it pulls in all the titles there, and I put artwork in there, and then I export it as an MP3 file. And MP3 files have the ability to carry data inside of them other than audio. So all of that information, the name of the show, all of it, the artwork is all kind of just like baked into that MP3 file from Forecast for me. So there are plenty of programs that do this. I'm pretty sure Logic does it for me, but like I kind of like it being a separate app because I can just kind of like, it's a last check before we go to printing, before we go to publishing, right? That I just get to kind of make sure that this looks exactly how I want. So Forecast, it's a free download. The developer says it's in beta. Yeah, I don't know. It's a very, very solid Mac app. So if that sounds interesting to you, go check it out. And last up on my macOS apps of 2023 is Super Rack Performer by Waves. Waves lets you use your Waves plugins, your audio plugins with your audio console live by just connecting your computer to your desk with a USB cable and the card that's built into your desk. It basically took I don't want to say it changed my skills, but to have those tools available to me in the live setting, because I've got them figured out in the studio setting, to take those live and have those as a tool in my toolbox for the bands that I'm mixing has been just like up to a new level every single time I do it. Every single time I go out and do a show with Super Rack Performer, I feel like I've leveled up as an audio engineer because I'm just getting really, really, really solid mixes really, really quickly because I'm starting with plugins and like presets that I know and that I know how to make sound good. And I mean, talk about a yearly theme thing that is just going to continue to grow for me, like removing barriers to creativity. I think I've talked about this a little bit with Wayland, like going out every show this last year, especially because I didn't tour in 2023 as much as I did in 2022 because we had a baby. I needed to be home more. It's really important to me. And like, to be able to just show up to a show after a month off or something and know that I was starting with a foundation that was already sounding huge and sounding really good, and that I was just kind of then tuning to the room and like making little changes to make the band sound good in the room we were in. Like I said, talk about another level. There were a couple festivals we showed up to this year that I was turning heads, and that felt really, really good. So, yeah, if you are an audio engineer and you are looking to step up your live performance, quality, I would definitely check out Super Rack Performer and Waves plugins. Ooh, thirsty. Little yuzu mandarin sparkling water from Good and Gather, our friends over at Good and Gather. Is it Good and Gather just a Target brand? Yes. Let's move on to iOS and iPadOS. iPadOS, iOS, and iPadOS. My iPad recently has been getting less and less use, but I think that's going to change now with Evie getting a little bit older. So I'll kind of call out what was specific for the iPad this year. I'm going to go in alphabetical order again, just because that makes the most sense to me. But yeah, iOS, phones for the iPhone, or apps for the iPhone, apps for the iPad. The first is One Blocker. It's a content blocker. I actually use it on the Mac too. It's an extension. Pardon me. It's a content blocker app. It allows you to block ads, trackers, and just kind of unwanted content and things on your iPhone. One thing that I like about it is that there's like a VPN that I can turn on at the tap of a button, and that further isolates my traffic on my iPhone. I like to do that, especially if I'm on like a public Wi-Fi. Just especially if I got to log into my bank app. So One Blocker, it doesn't slow my phone down, doesn't slow my network traffic down. I like it a lot. BoxBox is it's an app for F1 and keeping up with the world of F1. The creator of this kind of filled in a gap that was missing from like the official Formula One app itself. Liberty Media, I just haven't invested the time in it. But BoxBox is, there are widgets for your home screen with like race countdown, race schedule, and it automatically changes the times for your time zone because they are in a different country in a different time zone every week. So just that, and there's like custom wallpapers, and during a race you get a live activity on your phone's lock screen or your iPad's lock screen with progress of the race, who's in the lead, how many laps have elapsed, laps have been completed, etc. And really it's just, if you're into F1 and you want to like complete the experience of being a fan, I would download BoxBox, especially if you're into widgets. Their widgets are just so cool. Especially right now, to just like glance at my phone and know how many days are left until preseason testing starts in Abu Dhabi. I'm so excited about that. Or Bahrain, Abu Dhabi, one of the two over there. Yeah, BoxBox, download it. Next up is Carrot Weather. Carrot Weather is a weather app that, the reason I like it is, one, just the way that it looks. The developer, I like his style. I like the way that his app looks. But also the app is kind of run by an AI or something. That's Carrot. But it uses like dark humor and sarcasm to present the weather to you. So, and that's customizable as well. Do you want the app to curse at you or not? Do you want it to include politics in its jokes or not? And how unhinged do you want the bot to be as it gives you your weather forecast? So it's just an app that is updated recently. Again, really, really insanely good widgets with lots and lots of options for viewing the weather exactly how you want to. And smart layouts that, as rain is coming, it changes itself up to give you the best view and accurate information on precipitation that's happening right then. And then it changes itself back to the normal hourly, daily weather view. It's just a really well thought out app, and I enjoy using it a lot. Next up is CallSheet. And CallSheet is another app by one of the guys from the Accidental Tech podcast. It's either Marco Arman or Casey Liss. I can't remember which one of you two makes what. But CallSheet is an alternative to IMDb. It uses the movie database instead of the IMD movie database. And it's just another really well thought out, well designed app that isn't doing anything kind of just gross like the IMDb app. It's not prompting you. Like every time I open the IMDb app, it's like, connect your Facebook, connect your contacts, show everybody in the world what movies you're watching, and burn it. Like I don't care. I just want to, while I'm watching a TV show, say, hey, I know that guy from something. What is it? And just like pull it up and go. And CallSheet is that. My other favorite feature about CallSheet is that by default, it's spoiler free. There's nothing in the descriptions of the TV show. There's nothing in the names of characters if you don't want them to be there of like that would spoil anything. And I think that's a really smart addition to CallSheet. So check that out. If you have fled Twitter like so many of us have, Mastodon is an option for replacement. There are things like Blue Sky, there's Threads for Twitter or Threads from Instagram now. You could still be on Twitter or X or whatever the fuck Elon is calling it today. But Ivory... Mastodon it's a new version of Twitter. There are plenty of tech podcasts and stuff that talk about Mastodon, why it's different, Federation, why that's better, blah, blah, blah. I would recommend checking out whatever episode of Connected and the Accidental Tech podcast where they talk about Mastodon and Federation and just kind of like why they all chose to move there. And I moved there as well because most of the people that I followed on Twitter moved to Mastodon. I am not a very big fan of the native Mastodon app, kind of like I wasn't a fan of the native Twitter app. And so I used Tweetbot for Twitter, and the people that made Tweetbot have made an app called Ivory, and that is for Mastodon. It's a third-party app that lets you browse your Mastodon timeline, post things, follow other people. If you used Tweetbot, that's Ivory. It's just a really well thought out, really great looking app. And it was something that and it's like built very, 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 very similarly to Tweetbot. Is that the name of the app? I don't know, whatever, it doesn't matter. Ivory is easy to use, and that's why I like it. This next one is my kind of favorite iPad app of the year. The thing that I use my iPad for the most is live audio. If I want to walk away from the desk, walk out into the room, I can still control my desk from my iPad. And Midas, the company that makes the audio desk that I use, makes an app for the iPad, and honestly, it's garbage. And they haven't touched it in over a decade. And I'm not joking. Like, the app has not been updated other than like to fit with the modern size of devices. They haven't touched it since 2014, probably. Enter the app Mixing Station. Mixing Station is an audio engineer's dream, and it's not just for one type of desk. Literally, if there is a desk that an audio board, a soundboard that has an iPad app, you can talk to it with Mixing Station. It's just more well thought out than any other app that I've used. And you can customize it in ways that make it make even more sense for you, which is something that I really, really appreciate. Like, just the ability to put buttons where I want them and have it not be a super complicated thing is really, really great. And the connection that it has with the desk is more solid and persistent than any other app that I've experienced either. So yeah, check out Mixing Station they've got it for the phone. I've used it in a pinch, but it's really, really great on the iPad. Next up in my list of apps of 2023 for iOS is Overcast. Overcast it's a podcast app, and I enjoy it for pardon me. I don't know why I thought drinking bubbly water on a podcast would ever be a good idea. I like Overcast for 3 reasons. It has a feature called Smart Speed that kind of scans ahead and shortens word gaps to make them feel a little more natural and keep up with maybe a natural pace. Or if you're one of those crazy people that like listens to a podcast at 2x or 3x, it's shifting things around to help keep things as intelligible as possible, which is really, really cool. So, just speeds up podcasts without distorting their audio, basically. The other thing is Voice Boost. It's a custom EQ and compression that the developer built into the app that just kind of like, even if you are listening to a podcast that's really well produced, like this one, shout out to me, it just kind of adds a little bit more mastering, a little more volume. I like to use it, especially if I put my phone in the shower, just kind of up on the edge, just that little bit of extra volume and a little bit of extra intelligibility because of a special EQ. Other than that, there's the ability to like export a clip of a show that you're currently listening to and share it to social media or your friends. There's the ability to import your own custom shows or files, whatever you want. So I listen to all of my, any episode that I'm going to test goes into Overcast, just load it in directly, and then I can just listen to it, and it's really great to have it there. So if you enjoy listening to podcasts and you just use like the stock app, I would highly, 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 highly recommend checking out Overcast, because it just makes my podcast listening experience so much better. The ability to organize into folders and set sections, and just like I've got all my tech shows in one thing and all of my like life shows in another, and to just like not have to wade through a huge list of shows and just jump in kind of right where I want. So, I think Overcast is really great. Real quick, Square Invoices. I use them for invoicing, estimates, all that kind of stuff for my company. The mobile app is actually where I kind of prefer to create templates and items and stuff. I just think I don't know, something about doing it on the phone is really great, but the ability to very easily, quickly pull up an invoice or an estimate or check on the status if somebody's paid me on something from my phone without having to pull up a website and log in and it's just great. So if you're running a small business, I would check out Square Invoices, because so far I haven't paid them any money other than small credit card transaction fees. But who doesn't pay for that, right? Last up is an app that I have only started using in the last couple of months. It is Timery. It's a time management app that interfaces with another time tracker called Toggle. So Toggle is doing all the time tracking. Timery is kind of like a skin on top of it. It focuses mostly on the Pomodoro technique of time tracking. What I like about it is the ability to set projects, set customers, and then set like if something is billable or not, but also their widget support is insane. To just have projects at a tap on my iPhone, on my iPad, or even like on my desktop now on my Mac, because of widgets in macOS Sonoma, like to just have the timers that I need the most, really, really accessible really quickly. And especially now with interactive widgets, the fact that I can start and stop them without ever opening the Timery app come on, that's amazing. So yeah, to keep track of how much time I spend editing my show, or how much time I, spend advancing a show for St. Cecilia or whatever it may be. I've never used a time tracker before. And for someone who experiences time blindness as severely as I do, that's kind of scary. So I am really looking forward to the ability to like accurately bill people for my time. I've got a movie I'm editing the sound for right now, like to accurately bill them for the time that I put into this, and not just kind of guess and hope that I'm not charging them too much or too little or whatever. So, but Timery, just the widget support and the interactive widget stuff is just so cool. They knocked it out of the park with that, and I enjoy using Timery a lot. I want to thank you for listening. And before we go, I'm going to be that annoying person who has to promo something. I have a Patreon. You can find it at patreon.com/isthistheshow. And I mean, it's pretty simple. $5 a month. You get the unedited version of this show, largely unedited. I kind of get rid of me burping from the bubbly water and taking small breaks and stuff, but like you get a largely unedited version of the show. You get the show earlier than anybody else, and there's going to be a monthly special episode as well with different shenanigans. Sam and I are going to eat some food from the Netherlands, some snacks that we got recently from a friend. So that's going to be this month's bonus content. But yeah, check it out. Link in bio, all that good stuff. If you're watching on YouTube, thank you. Subscribe. Yeah, I'm just really happy to be here. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching if you're watching. And yeah, check out the Patreon or don't. I don't really care. But you supporting the Patreon lowers my barrier to creativity with this show. So if you like what you've been listening to so far and you want to help me continue to put this out, that's what the Patreon's for. And I love you already for it. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for even listening this far. Thank you. I really do mean it. Yeah, this is the show.